Welcome to the Wisconsin Music Podcast.
Welcome to the Wisconsin Music Podcast. Zach Fell here. This week we have the Rogue Electrics, and Kyle will be joining us. He actually was back here on episode 83, I believe, back in 2021. But a little bit about them. We're going to be talking about their latest live album, Circuit Breakers, which is a testament to their dedication to creating original music with a classic rock sound. So the Rogue Electrics consists of Kyle Rogan, which plays guitar, keys, and lead vocals. Kyle Stair, lead guitar and vocals. Nick Vanderlinde, I think I said that correctly, bass and vocals, and Mike LaPlante on drums and vocals. And the mission is to provide basically the Wisconsin music scene with something different. Their music blends the structure of classic rock, lyrical depth, and alternative and improvisational layer of blues, resulting in a unique sound that resonates, they believe, with today's rock fans. But basically, Kyle's on here talking about Circuit Breakers, which was compiled of over 400 tracks, and he can talk all about that in our conversation. So without further ado, Kyle, welcome back to the Wisconsin Music Podcast.
Hey, Zach. Yeah, thanks for having me. I really appreciate it. Really appreciate all you do for the scene and that you're still going with this podcast years later. So I'm really glad I can jump back on and come back again and talk about another album. So
Yes,
that's awesome.
Absolutely. And you are actually my, I think the second or third artist over these last 4.5 years that have come back on. It's greatly appreciated. Thank you so much. So
Nice.
Listeners, you could probably go back and listen to, I think, like I said, episode 83 and kind of get the gist of the Rogue Electrics. But Kyle, why don't you just do like a quick summary about the group so listeners can maybe even hearing from you now, we'll go back and listen to that prior podcast.
Yeah, so really our sound is the way I describe it in a concise way, and it's taken me kind of years to figure out how to say it in a concise way, because as you read off in the intro, there's a lot of influences there.
Right.
But I would say that we are an alternative blues rock band. So we do blues rock, but we do it kind of differently. We don't really kind of play straight. We might have a couple old blues kind of progressions, but we approach it a little differently. We mix in classic rock, alternative rock too, and that's where kind of the difference is. So alternative blues rock is what we do. It's a little bit on the kind of 70s heavier rockin' Pink Floyd, Zeppelin side, and then you can kind of mix in some of the Tom Petty songwriting stuff, and then on top of that you have some of the influence of like, you know, a Foo Fighters or a Pearl Jam or that kind of stuff. So
Right.
if that's what you like, then, you know, that's what we're trying to do a little bit with a new sound, new songs, and playing a lot for people in the greater Wisconsin area. Trying to give something different than like the cover band scene that plays a lot of that kind of music, but we wanted to do originals of stuff influenced by that. So that's a lot of what we go out and do.
Gotcha. So, like, Led Zeppelin, for example, they would listen to the old blues records and then they would take that influence and create their own music. So you guys are kind of doing the same thing. You're going to the past artists, taking what you really enjoyed from them and kind of mash it up a little bit and produce what you guys do.
Exactly. That's the idea. And you know, we try not to be too derivative. I mean, you know, there's only so many chords in a key, and then you got to start getting funky and all that stuff. But you know, we try to mix up a lot of different rock influences, like Kyle Stair's really more deep into the blues, like his influence. So he brings kind of the Stevie Ray Vaughan Hendrix side to the table. And then Nick on the bass, he's big into the 80s and 70s hard rock, so he kind of brings that 80s hair metal heaviness to the rhythm, and he brings kind of the Ted Nugent bass sound. And you know, Mike, he listens to a lot of different stuff, but I think he probably listens to the heaviest stuff out of most of us. So he really goes into the heavy metal, but he also likes the classic rock. And you know, sort of the stuff that brings him to us is kind of like, you know, he's really likes Clutch and that kind of thing. So that's where that comes from. And you know, I'm a big kind of like singer songwriter on in the rock realm. I'm not
Right.
just like I do some acoustic singer songwriter stuff. I try to put a rock spin on it. So I really like guys like Petty and Dave Grohl and those kind of things. And then, I do the keys and playing with Kyle forever. That the keys come from me playing blues with him. So I do the keyboard leads, it's like very Geddy Lee of like play guitar, sing, and then
Gotcha.
do some keys. And, so that's kind of how it all mixes in. And with everybody and we've really been playing since I talked to you in 2021. We still have the same lineup together and we've really kind of gelled really well. So
Awesome. Awesome. And, over these last few years now, you have recorded multiple live gigs, and you've taken that and turned it into Circuit Breakers, this newest album that you guys have out. So let's tell listeners a little bit about the process of all this, because obviously you, like I kind of read off, you like over 400 tracks here that you had to pick from. So that must have been a lot of time to go through things and go, that one might work, that one might work, that one definitely didn't work, so we're not going to use that one. So why don't you give the listeners like that process that you guys had to go through for this?
yeah, so honestly, it was a really great process for us. It made us so much better of a band. So like when we started doing the Strangers run, like back in 2021, Strangers of the Moment, we had that studio album after the pandemic we did, and we started playing out. And Mike joined the band right after Adam left, and he kind of upped our booking game a little bit, and we were kind of getting out of town more, playing, in greater Wisconsin, Illinois area, not just in Milwaukee. So we had necessity. We got this like new mixer where we could start recording our shows, and Kyle Stair produces all our records, so he knows how to record. So we got that all set up so that like a lot of these shows we were playing like these beer garden venues or parks or stuff where we have to supply everything, we bring everything in. So we're like, okay, if we're gonna do that, we got this thing, like we gotta have the computer up there anyway to do the mixer. Like let's just record it. Like let's try to record. I think our first show we recorded was in like 2021, late mid to late 2021 or something.
Okay.
And then every time we had to bring that thing, we would just record it. And at first it was like, whoa, like it was really humbling. That's what I would say. Is like you think you're doing a certain thing, or at least like we knew we were pretty good like in the studio because we were so used to playing in this space down here. And if you can see, like it's a pretty good space.
Yeah.
And we're really comfortable, like we like okay in the studio, but you go out to a gig and the sound's always different. You got to figure it out. And you don't always play as good as you'd want, and then there's lots of people and there's different pressure and all that kind of stuff. So
Right.
we started recording that stuff, and at first it was like, oh boy, we got to improve XYZ, but like a lot of people like do that and they're like, oh yeah, I got a live recording, like because some musicians or local musicians don't have that access to that, so it's like
Right.
great the first time they get it, it's like, yeah, I got it. But like we tried to keep a higher standard for ourselves. Like we knew what we were capable of. And some of those recordings, it was like, we can do better than this. Like this show we did not sound how we thought we sounded. So that kind of humbled us a lot, which is good. I think it's good to be humbled. It challenges you to learn and be better. And like, yeah, we mess up. I mean, there's stuff where we improvise and it might not be always noticeable to the person that's there at the show, but we notice and we got better. And but then there's some shows where you're playing really good and you do a lick in a song that you've never done before, and it's like, that was really cool, we got to keep that.
Right.
So there's a lot of that, and that's what kind of like, it took a couple of shows, but like once there was one show we did where once we got the recording back, we're like, that that was a turning point. There was a show where we were like really good through the whole night and the recording sounded great, and it was like, okay, like that's the standard from now on. Like we think we can make a live album if we do a couple more shows that live up to this standard, and then we want the songs to be maybe these 12 of what we do the best, because that kind of captures the spirit of our show. But it's like we got to get out there and nail it a couple times to have some things to look at and listen through. and yeah, like it was a lot. I mean, Kyle would send the whole show, and some of these gigs are 3, 4 hours. So you sit there and you listen, and it's like I have like 13 takes of the same song, you know, and then everybody's listening. So we're all like, okay, I like this one or I like this one, and we don't always agree. So then it's like, okay, we come together and we figure out these are the ones, you know, and sometimes it was like, okay, I'm gonna compromise with you on that. You like that one better, I'll like this one better, like you know. So
Right.
this was a collaborative effort, man. It wasn't just like me being like, this is the best stuff because
Right.
I've been
Right.
here the longest, right?
Right.
So
So yeah, it's great that, everybody in the group participated to make it, to elevate it to another level, not only for the album but for your shows and for your audience as well.
right. And I mean, that's why I love rock though, like rock music, because like I, it's relating to people, man. And I think that's becoming a dying art in music, like for a lot of reasons that I'm not I'm not full-time musician. I'm not going to get into the ins and outs of the music industry too much, but you know, the rock band medium for me is the best thing for music because it's like it forces you to relate to people in order to do it well. Like, you know, like, okay, you like this, I like this, or we did this good, or we didn't do that good, and you know, I think it should be this, or I think it should be this. Well, okay, what's the middle ground? Or no, you're right, like let's do that, you know. So there's a lot
Right.
of that has to go on, and the album is kind of like a microcosm for that, where it's like, but when it's good and everybody's relating to each other at the same time, you know, when you're playing live, you can't think about it. You're playing the song, you're focusing on what you're doing.
Yes.
But then like there's times where it just like transcends, like it's for individuals and then it transcends that. Where it's like now we're like a bigger sum of our parts all
Right.
of a sudden. Like we're all into it. We all know what we're doing. We're just like relating to each other like subliminally. And there's a couple tracks on the circuit breakers where that was happening, and I'm so glad we captured it. And I'm like, yes, like that's the spirit of rock and roll, and that's why I love to do music. It's like you get in a room with all those people, and you just it just elevates, you know. It doesn't always elevate, but when it does, it's like, oh,
Right.
that's like one of the best feelings in the world, you know, like when you have it where it all comes together. And yeah, like I'm so proud that we were able to do this because it's like it was tough. I mean, like I said, it really humbled us, and there was a lot of stuff to sort through. Just like, oh, we're just you get into like a Groundhog Day mode of just like,
Right.
what's going on? I've listened to I've listened to 15 versions of this song. Like, oh my God, which one
Right.
is better?
Right.
You know?
Exactly. Exactly. But before you continue on, I mean, this would be a good point in the conversation where we could put in a song that you're talking about that just exploded with greatness after listening to it over and over again, and that you picked which one turned out really well. What would be like one of those tracks that would be a good one to play for the audience?
Well, it depends how long of time you want the track to be, because my favorite one on the album is 11 minutes long.
Okay.
So if that's too long, so it's funny because we did a live radio broadcast for the Max Inc. radio like the weekend our album came out, and
Yeah.
and I was like, he's like, your songs are too long. I'm like, these are the short ones. So I'm like, but that's what we do. We do the improv thing. So there is some. I think like my favorite one is Bridge Over Water, the one that we did. It's honestly it's like 11 minutes, but like we were all completely in sync on that track. Like I listened to it and I'm like blown away. Like I was like, I don't know how this was me. I started playing in my garage and I was really average, and you know, I'm not saying it's like the greatest rock track ever. No, like
Right.
I know it's not that, but it's really good. Like we nailed the solos, like the rhythm section was like really tight, like on it. So that one, and but it's up to you. If you don't want to play an 11-minute song, there's a couple other ones that are similar. I mean, all the ones that are on the record like turned out really tight.
Right.
So
Well, I'll put a placeholder. I just put a placeholder in this conversation for that song, and if I feel like 11 minutes is too long, I might just fade it out a little bit or a little bit earlier. But I think that we can put that one in definitely.
the really tight stuff is at the end because it's like the singing part's all in the beginning, which is tight, but then it goes into like a really long solo section at the end where it's really tight. So
Okay.
it's up to you. You could like bring it in midway through, you know, I don't know.
Right.
But like, yeah, that one is great. And like the first time, like, you know, we heard back, that's like, oh yeah, that take is stellar. Like that's on there.
Perfect.
So
Well,
we can figure
so
some way to get
right.
some of that in, because
So- right.
it's channeling something.
Right. So listeners, if you listen to podcasts at more than 1x speed, and all of a sudden the song comes on and it sounds like, you know, upbeat punk, maybe you might need to slow your playback down, or maybe you want to keep it up because it's 11 minutes long. Who knows, right? But anyway, yeah, we'll put that one in. No big deal. You know, if the listener doesn't want to listen to the whole 11 songs, they can always fast forward into another part of the conversation.
That's absolutely true. But I think that one captures the spirit of the album the most. And that captures, I think, why we're unique as a band, because a lot of people don't do that, right? Like we have that's majority of that's improvised. Like there's a couple licks that we go back to in that section. Like it starts off with a lick that I repeat a couple times, but then in the middle of that, it's all improvised. And some shows, like I said, with this whole process, it doesn't, you know, sometimes with the long improvised sections, you don't always get it right at the show. You take some risks and they don't pan out, or you like, I'm gonna try to go for this really fast thing, and it kind of catches people off guard. But when it's all there, that song is the thing that's like, okay, we're all improvising, but we all are doing the same thing together, and it's wild, you know?
So you did this over 400 different tracks. So obvious, and there's like, what was it, like 8 to 11 songs on the album?
Yes, 11 songs,
Long
I
11 songs
believe.
on the album. So you have, you know, multiple, like you said, you listen to multiple different ones, and it has helped elevate these songs for you. And it's so, what kind of reaction have you heard from like long-standing fans of yours? Have they noticed the improvement? Have they said something to the positive of this?
Yeah, I mean, like, we've had a couple people that come to a lot of the different shows, and um, my father-in-law is a big one. He comes to a lot of the shows, and he, I guess both him and my dad, like, they really did a deep dive into it, and they're like, wow, like this has a different energy to it than your studio albums. I'm like, yeah, I mean, it's live, so there's the energy, there's tempos that are a little different at times, but he said it's like really tight. Like it just sounds like everybody's there. Cause like when we had to build the way we did our studio albums in the past, the issue I had with that is like the way we had to do it at the time was the only way we could have done it.
Right.
So I'm not going to go back and be like, well, if we did it this way, like, no, like it is what it is. It was good. It still turned out good. Like I still like how Strangers turned out.
Yeah.
But everything was done to a click track, right? So everything was built to a click track. And when you do that, you lose the natural energy of like what's going on.
Right.
The robot overlords have taken over, right? So this album doesn't have any robot overlords. And
Gotcha.
we're like, wow, there's like a whole feel here that we have not ever captured really on our albums. I mean, there's moments on like Strangers where it's like a cool solo or like a, part, that we did a lot of layering on that album that sounds really cool
Yeah.
um in the studio. But like when you have the live feel, like there's a song we do on this live album, Uncharted Territory, where actually we all start speeding up. Like the Kyle Stairs guitar solo starts and the tempo changes, and you Mike noticed it and he's like, oh, I don't know if I like this, like I got way off the tempo. I'm like, no, this is good. Like he came in with like a rip and lick, and we all started pushing the tempo because that felt right at the time.
Right.
And when you have like the click, you don't get that kind of feel, and like it sounds like, oh, this might be all over the place. No, it's not. Like it's noticeable to a drummer, but like the first time I heard it, I wasn't really sure. I was like, oh yeah, we're kind of rocking here, but I was like, oh, I didn't realize it was faster at first.
Right.
So there's that kind of stuff that happens where it's really cool, where it's like, okay, we would have never been able to do that in the studio. So that's kind of the reaction where it's like, oh, there's a good energy to this.
Right. I was there's another podcast I listened to, and this guy interviews like recording engineers, and this guy was talking about everything being so perfect nowadays. But if you look back at people that create things, some like, I think it was like a Chinese proverb or something like that, but I think it was called wasabi. And basically what it is that the artist would put a mistake into the art that they were doing. They didn't want it to be perfect because perfect is boring. If you put
Yep.
a little bit of something that's not quite right in something, it makes it more interesting. And I think that's the kind of the same thing. When we get excited about something, our heartbeat changes. Our whole feeling of the world around us changes. So I think you're right about, if it speeds up, there's a reason why it's sped up.
Yep. And so that happens on this album, and yeah, like you said, there are imperfections. I mean, the there are imperfections to us that we know, because we had like a whole session where everyone came to the studio when we picked it out. We hung out, cracked some beers, listened to it, and we were being really analytical about our parts. Like, oh yeah, I mispicked that, or I didn't mean to do that, but it was
Right.
good. It was still like the track was really tight, so we picked. There were certain things where we picked that. There's a couple things that bug me. There's a couple things that bug Mike, Nick, and Kyle
Yeah.
in
Right.
certain spots. But it's like that's good. That's like what makes a rock band like good and human. There's a
Yes.
human level to this. Like you said, everyone's shooting to make everything perfect, and this record sounds really good. It sounds really tight,
It does.
but it
Yes.
is not perfect. And that's what I love about it. That's what rock and roll is. Rock and roll, like in School of Rock, Jack Black says, rock ain't about being perfect.
Right.
And this is it, right? You know,
Right.
like you don't want to have some really obviously bad mistake or wrong note in there, which there's none of that. But like there are some odd things that happen that wouldn't happen on a studio track, right?
Right. Right.
That's cool.
So, listeners, when you go listen to this album, see if you can find anything that sounds not quite perfect. And there's the
Yeah, message me at the Rogue Electrics on Facebook and Instagram. Let me know what you find.
Right, exactly. It might be sometimes those mistakes are a good thing. They make the song almost.
Oh yeah. Yep, there's a lot of stories of famous musicians having happy accidents that turn into things that you listen to every day and you don't
Yep.
realize that it was something weird they didn't mean to do.
Right, exactly.
So-
Exactly.
Hey, Wisconsin Music Podcast listeners. Are you looking to elevate your music with a personal touch? Let me introduce you to ZTF Studio, where your sound finds its true home. At ZTF Studio, we create more than just great recordings. We create an experience. Our cozy, home-based studio in Southeast Wisconsin is designed to make you feel comfortable and inspired. Imagine walking into a space where your music is treated with the same care and passion you put into it. But with over 20 years of experience, we know how to bring out the best in your sound. Whether you're a solo artist or a full band, you'll get personalized attention and expert guidance every step of the way. We blend technical expertise with a warm, welcoming vibe to make your recording sessions enjoyable and productive. So, come on in, grab a cup of coffee, and let's make your next crowd pleaser together. Visit ztfstudio.com to book a conversation with Zach about your vision for your next project. ZTF Studio, where your sound feels at home. Now, back to our amazing guest.
So, what else is new with the group? I mean, you guys have been now out playing. You got this new album.
Yeah, so we're doing shows this summer. We have a website now. We didn't have that the last time. So like anyone, if you don't have social media, we're on Facebook and Instagram. You can go to our website, www.therogueelectrics.com. We have all our shows up there, news and stuff. But yeah, we've been playing all around, trying to get, this circuit breakers thing out into the world, which is cool. But yeah, that's mainly what we're doing right now is playing shows this summer. We're playing like Three Sheeps Brewery on Friday up in Sheboygan. So that's our next one. And then we're in the Milwaukee area doing the Mayfair Collection concert series for Wisconsin Music Ventures. So those are our next two shows. But the rest of the year, like we're going up to Green Bay. That's going to be pretty fun. De Pere area for Rock the Dock Music Festival. So we're excited about that. We're going to be playing in downtown Waukesha, the home of Les Paul. To Waukesha. I'm a Waukesha person, so is Kyle. Born and raised Waukesha, home of Les Paul. We're playing down there. We're playing in Tiranina and Lake Mills, that brewery. So those are kind of the gigs we got coming up the rest of the summer. All should be a really fun time.
Awesome.
So if you're looking for live music and the thing is we just played in Berlin for their farmers market concert series a couple weeks ago. And I mean, the band's been getting a lot of good feedback from people that I've been wanting to hear for a long time. Like, because we started this band because we were kind of bored of the whole cover band scene. Like I couldn't find what I was looking for in the scene. I was like, I want an original band to find, do this that's influenced by this stuff, but does new songs. I couldn't find it. Well, it turns out, I mean, I probably talked about that a lot on our last podcast, but it turns out there's a reason for that is because it's really hard to get booked doing that. But also like, I didn't give up. I was like, no, I know there's a need for this. It's not just me. And like a couple of the shows we did, like Whitnall Beer Garden, Berlin, a lot of the people that were there watching were like, this was really like, I appreciate you guys for playing for us. And like, I'm bored of all the cover bands and like, like this is what I've wanted to hear. And I'm like, wow, like that's great. Like
awesome.
It's really hard to find those people, right? Like it just is like, I know they're out there though. So like, if you're one of those people, like I want to be your friend, like come to our show, talk to me. I like to talk to the people in between sets and see, what they are interested in and what we're doing. And, all that stuff. So yeah, I mean, that's the biggest thing. And we want to make a third studio album too. So we got like 5 new songs that we started. The new songs have been hard to come by trying to pull this live record together, and we kind of had to reset our priorities a little bit. But
Right.
we're gonna be working on now that Circuit Breakers is out there in the world, like after the summer and we start doing regular rehearsal again, we're gonna be working on more new songs, hopefully to do a third record, because I think just with how tight this lineup is, we really want to do at least one more studio album with these guys, as a whole lineup. Because we haven't actually done a studio album yet in writing, and that's going to be a whole different process. And I think learning from the Circuit Breakers, we're going to try to do like a hybrid kind of recording process where we do track some stuff live,
Okay.
instead of just like playing everything to a click again. Like we know we're tight enough. If we get the song, like let's record the rhythm section together and let's try to get that and make it like a tight performance to build on. So
Right. Right.
that's what's kind of coming is we got the shows, but then we're gonna try to make that happen. That's
Perfect.
next on our to-do list.
Excellent. Excellent. Anything else you want the listeners to know about anything that you guys are coming? I'm going to try to put this out as soon as possible for you. So hopefully they're going to catch some of these gigs that you have coming up this summer. As I can't believe we're not halfway through the summer, but we're
Yeah, it's flying.
it's flying. It's like, man, before we know it, it's going to be August. It's just crazy.
Yeah, for sure. But no, I think that's the main thing. If you're interested in this kind of thing, come out to the shows, say hi, don't be afraid, don't be a stranger, as I like to say. Come on out and enjoy some rock with us. And if you can't get out to a show and you're interested in this album, we do have a Bandcamp page, so people
Yes.
can go to that and order like, and I'll ship it to you when I can. I usually try to do it within a week, but a lot of people have been picking that up at the show, so that I don't, if you can come to the show, we'll have it there.
Right.
So
You guys have the digital version and the CD version, right?
yeah, we have a CD. So the CD is pretty cool. We kind of did like a different take on our art. A cool album cover of our robot from the last album, plugging the thing in and lighting everything up on stage. So it's pretty cool. And then yeah, like on our last album cover on the back, we had like this radio tower, and on the back cover of the album, the radio tower is like has a circuit breaker that's overloading and collapsing. So it was a really cool idea for the art. Like our my friend Monica does that stuff, and
Yep.
she's done all our album art. So really good. And like yeah, I would say circuit breakers, like we didn't just come up with that out of nowhere. We actually had a few gigs where we overloaded the circuits and we had to rig things up in a different way. So we lived this
Yeah.
process.
Awesome, awesome. So, listeners, in the details, information on this episode, I will put all of Kyle's links for his website, the Bandcamp, social media. Go check them out this summer. Kyle, thank you so much for being on the Wisconsin Music Podcast again.
Yeah, you're welcome, and I really appreciate you having me again. And honestly, I'm glad you're still doing this, because yeah, it's tough, in the original scene out there at times, and
Yep.
there's been iterations of these kinds of things that have come and gone. So I'm glad you're still here doing this.
Oh, thank you, thank you. One last song to put at the end of this podcast. Give us.
Yeah, let's go with one I really like. Actually, let's put the one. So we got the 11-minute. We'll put one that's a little shorter.
Okay.
This song, we did a good version of Carry Your Weight. That's the third song on the album.
Yep.
That was the first track that made us realize that we thought we could do a live album. So one of the earlier middle gigs of this whole process, we got this take and we were like, wow, that was cool. Like that was really good. Like we could do a live album if we have 10 other ones that are like this.
Exactly.
So then that track kind of became the standard, like I talked about, like, oh, that one was great. Okay.
Right.
Now we've upped the game. So let's try to do more like this. So Carry Your Weight is kind of like the single, and Bridge Over Your Water is like the I'm a nerd that's gonna listen to like 11 minutes and 5 minutes of it is guitar solo, but it's a good time. So if you
Yeah,
like that kind of thing, we got both. We got a shorter song that has a little bit of guitar, so a little bit of rock and bluesy stuff, and then we got one that's more kind of on the alt rock 70s side that's
right.
gonna jam for a while.
Excellent. So listeners, go to Bandcamp, purchase their album. I think it's only like, I think either the digital or the CD are both under $10. So
Yep.
it's a great deal. It's great music. So Kyle, once again, thank you so much for being on the Wisconsin Music Podcast.
Yeah, thank you, Zach, and I hope we'll talk again in the future. I really appreciate you having me on to talk about this stuff and help spread the word of original bands in Wisconsin. Hello, nice to meet you. Can I do for
Man, you guys sound like everything's going really well.
Yeah,
Very cool.
yeah. This summer has gone well. I mean, we've had lots of hit or miss gigs here or there. It's at times, like during this process, and this summer we've been more conscious about like, okay, we want to book 9 shows, but make sure they're all gonna. There's like a 75 to 90% chance they're gonna be worth our time.
Right. Exactly.
There's some
Exactly.
gigs we used to take. It's like, oh, no one really shows up to this, or the other bands that were on the bill didn't pull any weight and
Uh,
bring people, and it's like, why are we doing gigs with these people? Like they don't ask us to come back and play with them, so why are we trying to set up this whole thing when it's not working? So it's like, let's just get out there, like find the beer gardens,
Yep.
find the places that have the crowds. And yeah, it's harder to get into those things, but when you do, it's like, you find those people, and people walk away with your music. So
Yes, absolutely. Well, Kyle, once again, thank you so much for being on again. And yeah, hopefully I can grab one of your gigs coming up this summer. It's been busy for me. I just moved into a new house, got the studio all finally
Looks
set
nice.
up. Thanks.
Yeah.
So it's just trying to get everything together. It's just crazy.
Yep. No, I know. But yeah, if you come, just like message me before too, so I know you're gonna be there if possible. Like you
Okay.
can send, and I'll try to meet up with you. That'd be cool. Like to see you at a show. It'd be
Perfect.
awesome.
Perfect. I'll send you an email once this goes out. But like I said, I'll try to get it out as soon as I can.
Awesome.
Well, thanks again for tuning in to another episode of the Wisconsin Music Podcast. Once again, I'm Zach Fell, your host and creator of the Wisconsin Music Podcast, where I love to amplify the great sounds coming out of the Wisconsin state. We have great talent here, great support, great listeners. Thanks to Fox Cities Indie Radio for syndicating this on Thursdays and Sundays, along with their other great programming. So make sure you check out the Fox Cities Indie Radio. Thanks again so much to Kyle from the Rogue Electrics for being on the Wisconsin Music Podcast again. It's great talking with him, hearing the great progress that they've made with the Rogue Electrics, and just like all these great musicians out here in Wisconsin, we're all striving to be better, putting on a great show for our fans and getting new fans. So if you like what you heard and you want to go check out their show, check out links down in the podcast details. So go and see their show. It's going to be a great time for you and everyone you bring with. So go support local music out here in Wisconsin. For those of you who are new to our show, the Wisconsin Music Podcast is dedicated to showcasing the incredible talent of Wisconsin-based musicians and the thriving local music community. Our episodes drop every Tuesday on all streaming platforms and YouTube. Additionally, you can catch our episodes on Fox Cities Indie Radio every Thursday at 6 p.m. and Sunday at 3 p.m. If you'd like to be on the show, just go to wisconsinmusicpodcast.com, fill out the guest request form up at the top, ask for your email and your name, and then I'll send you an auto email asking you for more information. If you are enjoying these episodes, please consider donating to the Wisconsin Music Podcast. Donations help pay for the website and putting the podcast up on streaming services, and also getting our name out there to all Wisconsinites and others that are interested in our great music here in Wisconsin. Donations are secure through PayPal and Stripe. All you have to do is go to the website and click on Donate to WMP. You can also head over to our Instagram and Facebook pages and like us there. Leave some comments. Also go to the podcast review section of your podcast player and leave a 5-star review. Would be great. You can also head over to YouTube and watch the interviews and leave comments there as well. Have a great week, everybody, and we'll see you next time. Thank you for tuning in, and we'll see you next week with another fantastic episode on the Wisconsin Music Podcast.